Hey everybody, it's Jake Mace, the vegan athlete, and I'm always looking out for deals when it comes to gardening and planting edible plants and edible trees. And I was over at my friend's nursery, Shamus O'Leary's tropical fruit trees in Glendale, about 6 months ago, and he had this sugar apple tree that was tucked in the corner, shaded out by some loquats or mangoes or something. And I said, hey, what kind of tree is this? And he said, it's a sugar apple. And I had no idea what that kind of tree was. So I Google searched it, it looks pretty good. And I said, hey, can I take this one and try to rehabilitate him back to health, because he was buried under the nice looking loquats and mangoes. And Shamus said, yep, try him out, and we brought him back to health, and he looks like this now. He's surviving the summer heat. He's got some nice looking leaf growth. He just had a mesquite tree fall on him, but he survived. But I've got to reuse this pot for something, and so I'm going to try to transplant this guy the first week of September from this clay pot into this 25-gallon pot. And we're gonna see if we can transplant him with minimal stress. I'm gonna also show you what the perfect Shamus O'Leary certified soil is for a container plant, because I think that we're gonna keep this guy in a container at least for a year or two, so that we can control his environment and give him a little more warm, humid weather without a frost. So without further ado, let's get to this video and safely move this guy to a new environment. I just brought in the big guns here, Shamus O'Leary himself, and he corrected me and said that this tree might not be large enough yet for a 25-gallon, and that's one of the mistakes people make. So why was that going to be a mistake?
The reason you want to upsize when necessary is because if there's too much soil, very little root, the tree will not soak up all of the water that you're giving. So which means the soil is going to stay wet, and you can get rot.
Oh.
That's why you don't want to take a small tree and put it into a large pot thinking, well, I don't want to do this again in a year. You want to size them up when needed.
Okay.
So this size tree here, the sugar apple, can go to a 15-gallon, and it'll be fine there for a few years.
Okay.
But you wouldn't want to go to the 25-gallon. It's not good. Yeah.
So this pot is our pot.
Yep.
And this is our tree, and we're gonna move it.
Correct.
Okay. And that way we won't have any rot.
Right.
All right, let's go for it. All right, now we have a new guest star. We have Martin Hernandez, who's also a gardener and grown a lot of edible trees. And you came over today to give me a meme sapote.
Yes.
But you're gonna help me with this tree here.
Definitely. The soil that I make is a lava rock, lava sand, and 2 different size mulch mix. And it's built for drainage. So you don't really have to worry too much about rot and what have you.
Because you don't want to plant these guys in compost.
Correct.
When they're in a pot.
Right, no compost.
And why is that?
Because compost is rich, and when it's in a contained area, sometimes it can overwhelm the tree. So it's okay to use a little bit of compost as a food on top. You can sprinkle, a few times a year if you want to put a couple of handfuls on top and let it break down before it reaches the tree. But if the tree is surrounded by compost, and we've got 118-degree temperatures, it can burn.
Okay.
It can be a little too rich.
Too rich. Yeah. My other question was, why are we keeping this sugar apple in a container? Why not put them in the ground right now?
You can put them in the ground. Sugar apple are a little cold sensitive. They'll drop their foliage in the winter. Generally when we're below high 30s, that's normal. Okay. In winter they're going to turn into sticks, and then they'll come back in the spring. Okay. They do like a morning sun, afternoon shade, or a filtered sun environment, similar to lychee. Okay. So while the tree is young, the first few years, pot is going to be better for the tree so that you can move it around depending on what the weather's like.
So maybe one more year in the container, and then try them in the ground in a morning sun, afternoon shade location.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe either in the spring or next fall.
Are there any plants for the Phoenix area that are the most common only in containers forever?
As far as the stuff that we handle, lychee are pretty common for containers. Growing. A lot of people grow mangoes, some of the dwarf mangoes in pots. Soursop is one that needs to stay in a pot because they don't like any cold. Mame sapote, cacao, Michelia albas, the flowering trees. That stuff's going to be better in containers.
Okay, cool. So we have the well-draining Shamus mix, which you can get from your nursery.
Correct.
Which is composted mulch, lava rock, and lava sand. Composted mulch.
Correct.
Which means it's been broken down already.
Yep.
And what's next?
We're going to add a little bit of the worm castings.
Cool. And for somebody who's a beginner, what are worm castings?
Worm poop.
They look like coffee grounds, right?
Yep.
Worm poop. And this is for gardening. This is like the creme de la creme of soil.
Worm castings are the best thing on earth. Use as much as you can afford.
Okay.
If I had the money, I would plant in nothing but worm castings.
And we're gonna get some Worm Gold Plus worm castings.
We carry this. We
Okay.
carry this particular brand. I really like it. We've been happy with the results, so we keep selling. And they come in about 35-pound bags.
Nice. Mix it up. Okay. And that's as much dirt as you put in the bottom
To start.
to start.
And then we're going to take the tree out and see where it's sitting.
So that's about, I would say, what is that, about like 8 inches of soil?
Yeah, about a quarter of the pot.
Just to give the roots something to go into.
Right.
And then there'll be more soil added with the trees.
Yes, definitely.
Is there any particularly good time of the year to transplant trees into a different container?
No, you can do it any time of the year.
And you want to let the tree tell you when it's time to up the container size.
Correct. When it looks like the canopy is getting a little larger than the container, and you can tell that there's a lot of growth up top, and if the pot is too small, then it's time to start looking at it.
So this one you said could stay in this container longer.
It could stay in there till next spring or summer.
But we're going to transplant it for the audience watching,
Right.
as well as I need this pot for another project.
Yes.
Okay. So we got our shovel, and we're going to do what first? Just start?
Just work around the sides, make sure the soil is loosened.
Okay. The soil I put in here was not the Shamus perfect soil because I was inexperienced at the time that I planted this. So
Correct.
I think that he'll be much happier now having you here.
I won't fault you for that.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to learn. Learn as I grow. I didn't water this guy yesterday or today.
Good.
Hoping that it would be more solid.
Right.
And
In
not
fact,
break up.
if you know that you're going to be transplanting something, let it dry out a little bit, because in the root ball, the soil around the root will solidify.
Okay.
If it's wet, it's going to crumble.
Okay. And then water him once we transplant.
Correct. Then you're going to soak them. And we should be good there. Now we're going to tilt it on its side.
Okay. Without breaking the leaves, so
Yeah.
I'll be the leaf guy here. Let me actually go around this level.
This is why I do not like ceramic pots, because when it comes time to moving them or transplant,
They're impossible to get them out.
yeah. Because generally with a plastic pot, you can bang the sides and kind of work them out, but
I noticed most of your container plants are in these guys.
all of them are.
And what is a sugar apple?
The sugar apple is a member of the Annona family. It's considered the creme de la creme of the Annonas, related to the cherimoya, the atamoya, custard apple, soursop.
Is it called mountain apple?
That's a relative. Very tropical.
Martine, you're not growing any sugar apples?
I got a custard apple.
Custard apple? And you got some soursop and things like that, yeah?
Yeah. That I got from Shamus as well.
Nice. So what are you doing right now? You're just taking the soil away from the pot and the roots?
Correct. Well, not from the roots, but we're taking it away from the sides of the container.
That'll help us to get them out. So we're going to use some rebar here to scrape it around, right?
Yes.
And just to break it up from the pot.
If I didn't stress it earlier, this is why I do not use ceramic pots for fruit trees.
Okay.
Flowers and houseplants, cool. For fruit trees, leave
No,
it
no.
alone. No.
All right. It's a good idea with the rebar though. Should be broken up more. Is that better? You want to roll it and do the other side?
Okay, there we go.
So now he just broke off.
Some of the roots broke.
So now what's our goal here now that he broke off? We have time is of the essence.
To get as much of the root ball as possible, you don't want it exposed to air, so we need to get this out of here.
Into there.
And we're going to let's scoop some of this soil and throw it in there.
You want to grab the shovel here? And I'm just going to lift this guy out,
Yep.
but keep them together.
Correct.
Like I've done 300 times already.
Now here we're going to actually need some more soil. It's not going to be high enough.
Yeah, I'll hold them right here. So it helps if you have 3 friends to assist you, right?
Unfortunately, I have 2. The third is always the problem.
Looks like Martine's got the mixture down here. did put a lot of sand in that mixture to make it sandy.
Yeah. We should be good there. Yeah, right there.
Okay, so now place this guy inside.
Yep. Go ahead and drop him in and squeeze him in.
I'm gonna try to kind of tilt him a little bit here. And then maybe I want to stake him for just a few weeks just to kind of make him straight or not.
No, actually, you're fine.
And then do you put mulch on top?
I'll throw a little handful of compost on top.
So now we've got a spongy soil that's also sandy.
Yep.
And we're gonna also feed him with some of your Shamus container plant food, right?
Well, yeah, we will add some of that at a later point.
Okay.
But today I'm gonna add a little bit of Jay's compost.
Well, this is Jay's compost.
Correct.
Now, what is Jay's compost?
Jay's compost is all sorts of secret stuff, proprietary blend, but it works very well. Been very happy with the quality of his product. And if you've been to his yard,
yeah,
you've seen how everything that should not be growing here supposedly thrives.
And he's a local guy in
Yep.
Phoenix area.
Right.
And if you go to the Phoenix Fruit Growers on Facebook, that's where he's at.
Yep, Phoenix Fruit Growers, and then we carry his compost at our nursery as well.
And he's basically making his compost and then bagging it
and bringing it over to us for
bringing
resale.
it to you.
Yep.
And the time's of the essence because the soil's alive.
Yes.
So he's giving you a living soil that doesn't die while it's waiting at a big box store.
Right.
And then we're using it right away.
Compost needs to be kept moist and shaded. So we actually wet ours down every couple days, and then we tarp it so that it's not exposed to the elements, because you want to keep everything in there alive. So when you find compost pre-packaged bags that at the big box stores that have been sitting there for a while, it's just brown dirt.
Should we put some worm castings on top?
We're good with the worm castings. We have plenty inside the pot.
Should we water with pond water?
We do need to water. Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use pond water from my fish pond here to water this guy, so he's got the fish poop water in there. And then watering him after we transplant him is important. Why?
You want to keep the roots moistened, wet, so they're not exposed to the air. Plants can go into shock fairly easily when you're disturbing the roots.
Right.
So you want to keep them hydrated so they can start to heal and regenerate themselves.
And I'm going to keep this guy in a shaded spot for the rest of today.
Definitely. We just put him through a little bit of trauma, so now you just want him to rest and do its thing.
Now, how long do you predict he'll have to be in this pot for before we move him again, or
it could stay in this pot for another year or two.
A year or two.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's not about the size of the pot; it's about the nutrients and the food you're putting in there.
Right.
That's what I've learned from you.
Bigger pots will not help the tree grow faster.
Okay.
It's how you take care of it.
And the container plant food that you use is the foliar feed.
Yes.
Sprayed on the leaves you can get from jakemace.com or from your nursery in Glendale. But also the container plant food from jakemace.com or your nursery.
Yeah, that would be the 754.
754
yeah.
Container tree food.
Right.
So there's some water. And if you guys subscribe to our channels right here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button for us too. We'll come back to you guys with updates about how the sugar apple is doing. I've been impressed with the growth of this guy. He went from nothing to this, and he was a forgotten tree in the corner of your yard that I adopted.
He was a stick, no leaves.
Now he looks like he's an actual tree.
Right.
Hopefully as he gets to the cooler months of the fall, he'll be even happier and healthier. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Well, thanks for all the help. Thank you for helping with this tree. Thanks to Martine for helping. You were great. Thanks for all the mixture and the timely hands. I think it would really help if you guys had friends. If you have no friends to help you, it's very sad, but
Craigslist.
Personals. But better to have some gardening friends.
Right.
They give to you, you give to them, all that stuff.